The Caitlin Clark Stimulus Package, also known as the newly agreed upon CBA deal. Make no mistake about it, folks. Every time the owners came to the table and said, fine, we'll increase the salary cap to this, you can thank Caitlin Clark. Every time the owner said, fine, we'll pay for your housing again, you can thank Caitlin Clark. Every time the owner said, shoot, we really don't want to come up off this 15% number, but you know what? We'll move a little bit. You can thank CC22.
This was not anticipated by A'ja Wilson. Nobody has spent the past 2 years convincing themselves that the Caitlin Clark controversy was exaggerated, that the buzz was manufactured by the media, that the ratings would ultimately drop, and that this league had true stars prior to Clark's arrival and would continue without all of this commotion, since the WNBA recently approved the biggest collective bargaining deal in professional women's basketball history. None of them anticipated this.
A'ja Wilson and all her Glazers could give a big thank you to Caitlin Clark for her getting paid. Ever since the league came to an agreement, all we've been hearing about is how A'ja Wilson is about to sign this historic Supermax deal like she just did it all on her own. No, you could thank Caitlin Clark for revolutionizing the game so you could get paid. We don't care how many MVPs and championships A'ja won or how she was already known. It doesn't matter. She didn't change the dynamic of the league for the players to get paid like this.
The salary cap increased to $7 million from $1.50 million. The average player wage increased from approximately $120,000 to over $600,000. The minimum wage exceeded $300,000. Real money, revolutionary money, the kind of figures that seasoned players in this league have been battling for since Caitlin Clark was a high school student. Clark's change from $78,066 in 2025 to $530,000 in 2026 was the first figure they displayed. The building is currently on fire.
For example, 2024 Rookie of the Year Caitlin Clark, who made $78,066 in 2025, is poised to see her salary jump to $530,000 in 2026. So this year, she is about to jump to that salary, okay? Now, the other jump, the new provision would also be applicable to younger stars such as Aaliyah Boston, who is max eligible in 2026, and Paige Beckers, who is max eligible in 20.
This is what really took place. Everyone in women's basketball knew that a negotiation between the WNBA and the Players Association was imminent, and it lasted for 17 months. The former CBA was a thing of the past. It was a framework created for a league that was struggling to stay relevant, not one that was creating broadcast rights packages that would have been laughed out of the room 5 years ago, selling out arenas and markets where seats had not been filled in years, and breaking viewership records. And one person was at the heart of all that expansion: every significant metric and every meeting where executives were suddenly paying attention.
The reason why they had the battery in the back that they had was because of Caitlin Clark's impact. All of the numbers and the metrics that the players could point to. Do you see these ratings? Well, Caitlin Clark effect. Do you see this attendance? Well, Caitlin Clark effect. Do you see the social media impressions? Well, Caitlin Clark effect. This is called the Caitlin Clark Stimulus Package, and it will go down as.
Therefore, when the new CBA was introduced in March 2026, it included a mechanism that no one wanted to formally name after a particular individual. It was referred to as the EPIC provision. A fast-track salary structure called exceptional performance on initial contract is intended for players who alter the league's financial situation prior to the expiration of their rookie contract. The official wording of the clause does not include Caitlin Clark's name. It didn't have to. Every boardroom in women's basketball understood exactly who they were focusing on. The WNBA uses the EPIC provision to subtly and legally state in paper that no two players are alike. Different paperwork is needed for some athletes.
So this WNBA collective bargaining agreement will fast-track the ability for players on a rookie scale contract to make maximum and supermax salaries, sources told ESPN. The new provision, called EPIC, Exceptional Performance on Initial Contract, allows players to renegotiate their 4-year salary and earn the standard max that that year if they were previously an all WNBA first team or second team, or the Supermax if they won the MVP.
The only thing that tells this narrative honestly and without softening the edges is the figures. Therefore, let's put them on the table. Caitlin Clark, the player who sold out opposition venues in locations that hadn't had a full house in 10 years, helped the WNBA surpass 1 million viewers per game for the first time since 2008 in 2025. The player whose name appeared on a schedule increased television ratings by more than all the other players in the league put together, made $78,066, $78,000. A mid-level paralegal makes about that amount of money. That's around the salary of an entry-level marketing coordinator who works behind a desk in a city that nobody travels to for vacation. IT is not even close to what a rookie in Major League Baseball, the NBA, or the NFL would start at. In the meantime, Clark was selling jerseys, setting assist records, and adding cameras to women's basketball, something that hadn't happened in a long time. Her actions were truly unprecedented in this league. Additionally, the league was giving her a check that was insufficient to pay for 2 months' worth of rent on a respectable Indianapolis apartment. That's not a salary. That league is hoping that its most valuable asset won't do the math. The calculation was done by her. The math was done by the whole sports community. Additionally, the new CBA is the league's official, long overdue admission to the public that they were forced to do it.
What has now happened is, because of the quote-unquote epic rule, I'm going to call it the Caitlin rule, because let's be real, she was the first person to have reached this. Whether it be it's Caitlin, Aaliyah, and Paige are all eligible. I'm just going to call it the Caitlin rule. Just like the old Rose rule in the NBA, we're going to call it the Caitlin rule. So, ironically, if Caitlin goes and wins MVP this year, she's actually eligible for the Supermax in 2020.
In 2026, that is no longer the case. Clark's pay increases by more than 500% to $530,000, over 6 times her earnings from the previous season. And take a moment before you start praising the league for finally getting it right, because that $530,000 is still the best team sports discount available today, and it's not even close. In 2025 alone, Clark earned $16.1 million, while the WNBA paid her $78,000. Pay, endorsements, public appearances, speaking engagements, business agreements, the whole enterprise. Wilson, HY, Gatorade, Nike, and State Farm. She is the world's 6th highest paid female athlete. The WNBA paid her less than half of 1% of her entire salary in 2025, when her earning potential was at its highest. The league was receiving franchise-level services at a cost that no professor at a business school could justify without becoming physically uncomfortable. The increase to $530,000 is genuine. You're welcome. Even if it has been earned 10 times over, it still doesn't accurately represent Clark's true value to every sponsor, TV network, and venue that sells out as soon as her name comes on the away calendar. The rise is unfair. The least the league could do to avoid further humiliating it is this.
The way the team is structured, in order for this team to remain intact, Sophie would have to be willing to take a league minimum kind of deal, which is around $300,000. And I don't see that happening. Okay, and I believe also people are going to be shocked how much money Lexi Hull is about to be offered, because I think she's going to get offered $600,000 to $700,000 by somebody, and that is going to greatly complicate things.
However, this is the point at which the narrative begins to feel more like a chess problem than a celebration. Because money does not appear out of thin air when Clark's pay increases from $78,000 to $530,000. It is derived from a salary cap. The new salary cap for the WNBA is $7 million. The Indiana Fever need to use that entire payroll allocation to develop a competitive basketball squad for everyone, not just Clark. Every player, from the starting lineup to the bottom of the bench, must make at least $7 million, and before any extensions, before the maximum deals, and before the summer choices that will determine what type of squad Indiana can actually build around her. Clark now uses more than 7% of the limit on her current contract alone. That there's a term for what happens To a salary cap when 3 other key players are due extensions inside the same window and your franchise player is finally paid. Appropriately, squeeze this that word and the Fever is going to feel every bit of it.
I wish they would have had Kelsey Mitchell on here, because after last season, I mean, look, Kelsey finished what, 3rd or 4th in the MVP voting? This is her contract to make as much money as she possibly can, I believe, in this league. And come next year, because I don't think that the Fever are going to be able to keep her next season. And one could argue, depending on how much you covet depth on a team, like how deep do you want your team to be? I think one could argue against re-signing Kelsey Mitchell this year.
The national media consistently undervalues Kelsey Mitchell, therefore, let's talk about her. She is among the league's most dangerous scoring guards. She is the Indiana Fever's second-best player, and the new CBA has made negotiating her contract at a crossroads far more costly. Before the 2025 season, Mitchell was a free agent, but Indiana used the core designation to sign her to a 1-year contract under the new CBA. The Fever core Mitchell's pay increases to $1.4 million. A supermax contract that is ideal for a player of her caliber if they decide to make the most sensible shorter move in 2026. Additionally, it represents 20% of Indiana's $7 million maximum on a single player who isn't Caitlin Clark. Aaliyah Boston is also fully qualified for this offseason, and Clark herself is eligible for a 3-year maximum contract worth $1.3 million in 2020.